Welcome back. Welcome in. This is Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com, part of the Paramount Network. I am Mike Casaza in Morgantown, West Virginia, a college baseball campus, Chris Anderson. Big 3-game series, 2 ranked teams, number 3, Oklahoma State, number 24, West Virginia. So, of course, we're going to talk about college football, because that's all we're going to do for a while now. And that's the afterglow of the JT Daniels commitment and what it all means. And we have roster implications today, do we not, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, we do. We obviously been talking about all the scholarships that are still available, the handful that they're trying to fill in towards the tail end of this class with transfers and laid out junior college players and stuff like that, guys that can immediately help this fall. And quarterback was on the list, officially, unofficially. We'll go over that in a minute. But I think when you add somebody the caliber of JT Daniels, it might change, how you view what to do with those scholarships as well. So I think it's worth revisiting, even if we have to pass over the Big 12 leading baseball Mountaineers right now.
Oh my God, Passover. Well done.
Did I steal that from you?
I got to cross it off my list right now.
I'm stealing your bit. I'm sorry.
The jokes are unleavened.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you can find plenty of Daniels content on our site immediately after the commitment. The instant reaction from you, from me, from his family, insight from the analytics dude at WVU podcast. You can catch all that. One thing we've gotten into repeatedly through the offseason, what do they do with these handful of scholarships? There's one fewer now, and understandably so. So let's go back to the beginning here and trace this through, because you had a really good point there I want to make sure it didn't slip through. Quarterback was kind of sort of on the list. And as I'm looking back at what we wrote, this went through iterations where I was thinking, don't get one now, let the guys go. And they did that, kind of. And then I was thinking, well, at the end of the spring, even if you have a starter, still get one, because you're probably going to lose one of the 3. And then in between, we had the very obvious, if a no-doubter is out there along the lines of JT Daniels, you do it and you figure it out later. And they did that one, so that's good. But there's a range of options there, and that one piece affects really the remaining number that you now have left, which is 4, and it was 7 before. But as we often say, fluid, Chris, very fluid. And this is proof of that. Take us through how this has looked from the outset all the way to how it looks now, near the conclusion.
Yes, let's go back to fairly early in this offseason. I think this was January or so, and Neil Brown had laid out that, hey, we got 8 scholarships remaining. Here are the 8 players. And it was very rarely do you see it just flat laid out like this. It was full list style with a quote for each position. This is why we need it. This is what we need. And he went through. And at that time, it was a wide receiver who they signed in February, Cortez Braham, a kickoff specialist who they eventually signed and miraculously got on campus somehow in Grothaus from Florida State. And then the other 6 were offensive line, secondary, wide receiver, an edge rusher, a high school defensive lineman, and, quote, we're in a position where we won't turn down a great player, end quote. And that, I think, that's the one that you and I both, even from that moment on, because at the same time, we'll get there in a second, is that is where quarterback kind of came in. Because at the same time that Neil Brown was saying all this publicly and not saying the word quarterback, that was when Tyson Bagent was coming onto town from Shepherd College. And
wow, remember that?
Yes,
the very flagrant basketball seats in the middle of the student section, and wow, those are the days.
So that the word quarterback was not said, but it was shown, I guess. I don't know. But as you and I reported at that time, the Bagent situation was a little bit. It was uncertain because, one, was it definitive that he was going to be a starter? And you and I talked about this on the pod. Like, you can't bring in a guy that's not definitively the starter, because then that just creates more problems. And 2, I was told there was some academic situation, not that Badgett was not doing well academically, but just the way it transferred and the way the semesters were lined up. Essentially, he would have had to have taken 30 credit hours in the spring and summer before he'd be available to play in the fall. Our Maryland site reported something similar and said that he, basically, because they were also checking him out, that he wouldn't have been able to enroll until like August, basically, and still unclear if he could have played. So Badgett eventually went back to Shepherd. He made it clear when he entered the transfer portal that it had to be a perfect situation for him to leave. And again, West Virginia kicked the tires and then moved on. And no other comment had been made about that spot by Neil Brown since then. And now they got him.
Slight upgrade.
Possibly. I don't want to dog Badgett because he's done some pretty amazing things at Shepherd, but I think the potential for Daniels is higher than Badgett for sure.
Yep. Keep him healthy, keep him upright, see what happens, which leads to this now. You get a guy like this. This is I think I mentioned this before. It's a jewel in the crown. It's a jewel in the crown, though. It doesn't guarantee anything. Starting to get some clarification as to what the analytics dude actually did and did not say. I don't want to get into all that, but there was a conversation that definitely showed the impact of Daniels and what could happen. The outcome is that JT Daniels' father says they told us he becomes immediately, I don't know, it was the best or one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. We had our checklist. Hard to disagree. Certainly better than it would have been without him. But also this goes from maybe a 6-win team to upwards of a 10-win team. And that area in between is the reality that you really want to explore and also maximize. You want to remove as much data as you can, which means getting a guy like Daniels, again, a jewel in the crown. You like to have a lot of jewels in your crown, though, Chris. So now you wonder, what can they, what will they, what might they do to really accentuate the acquisition of Daniels? A guy who can fling it around. It'd be great to have someone who can catch it. A guy who has been injury prone, and every quarterback is a lot better when he's protecting the pocket. West Virginia's offensive line is better on paper. Sounds like on the field too. Perfect? Nope. Still got a right tackle thing going on, and static as was before. You don't say no to a really good player. How does this affect the Final Four?
I think you have to build on it. You can't let an addition like Daniels go to waste. And how is one, if you have any doubt about your offensive line or your wide receivers, any doubt at all, you go out and pursue something special. And you tell them, look, we got our former 5-star quarterback. He's got a big national championship ring on his finger. He's 7-0 as a starter at Georgia. Come on. You're the missing piece. You want to come catch some passes? Hey, you want to block his, not his blind side. I guess that's going to be Milan, but you want to play right tackle here? Come on. Let's go. And I think you cannot waste a 5-star talent because you're thinking, do we really need another wide receiver? Do we really? If there's any doubt, you go get him.
Agreed. And then if you just look at what they have out there now, Bryce Ford-Wheaton, Caden Prather, Sam James. Those are 3 receivers. Reese Smith is still in shorts and a T-shirt jogging around trying to get that. It looks like hamstring. I'm armchair doctoring, but trying to get that thing stretched out, warmed up, where he can compete again. Be surprised if we see him again this spring. Preston Fox is out there, and that's about it. Cortez Branham, Jeremiah Aaron, that's 2 more. Are those guys game breakers? They know better than we do, they being the coaches, but not a lot of coaches went after them in the cycle that ended up with them here. So there probably is a level above them. And there's also a level above Prather, Wheaton, and James, if he can get it. There's a level that complements them too. And your point is right here. You don't want to be a couple games into this and say, man, if we just had one more target, if we had one more stretcher, one more game breaker, this would look a lot better than it does, because this is supposed to look better now. And you have a chance to do it, you do it. So I think you do shuffle things a little bit. So let's go over our Final Four. I think prior to, when was this now? Wednesday, when Daniels committed, you would have said, and we can order this however we want, but 2 defensive backs, linebacker, defensive lineman, and then with the asterisk being a quarterback, i.e. Daniels, bumps everything down 1. And again, maybe you only get 1 defensive back, linebacker, defensive lineman, but Have we set the table right there? Would that be your final four before Daniels?
Yeah, before Daniels, maybe. I think I given the five when I did the five last week. So one of those being quarterback, I had safety, corner, and then I still considered wide receiver. We can go into why. I mean, we've already gone over why.
Mhm.
I think if you have any doubt, you have to. And then yeah, I kind of had that bandit slash linebacker slash edge because there was a question in my mind of because when Neil Brown gave an update 2-3 weeks ago towards the start of spring practice, he said, we're going to get secondary guys and we're definitely going to get a linebacker. Like I've never seen him say so certainly that they were going to get a position. And then a day or two later, Jasir Cox commits. Now, Jasir Cox is listed as a linebacker, but he's recruited as a spear. So is that who Neil Brown was talking about when he said we're definitely getting a linebacker? I'm uncertain on that. I don't know how badly you need a starting linebacker right now. If you could add an edge rusher, that'd be great. So in my mind, I think the four are safety, corner, edge, pass rushing specialist, and wide receiver right now.
Okay, I'm gonna flip the order a little bit. Man, I have the dice in my hand. I'm shaking them. I'm blowing on them. I'm throwing them out there. I'm prioritizing receiver. I just want to see if I can do it. So I'm making that one. If it ends up being 4, 3, or 2, whatever, that's fine. But I really want to do that because you have a chance, and everything you said is right. You have a chance to really kind of shake the trees and get something out of there. So I would make that one. I'm looking at the defensive backfield yesterday at practice, and you have Naim Muhammad at spear, and you have Malachi Ruffin at corner. Spear is probably taken care of. I think we'll see about St. McLeod, period. But Mallinger looks like he knows what he's doing. Obviously, they have a chance to use Cox there, so that's probably fine. I wouldn't worry about that. But that corner spot really does concern me, especially in this conference. And you're going to have multiple people out there. And I'm not sure that I really want to move Marcus Lloyd to corner for nickel or dime situation. So I think you have to take care of corner. Mike linebacker, you're not going to bring in anybody to replace Lee Koba. How about someone to back him up or supplement him or give him a chance? Or if he has to come out, if he's not good, if he's not healthy, who's your Mike? Is it Caden Bizer? Are you really doing that? And okay, shuffle the deck. Who's your Mike that you're moving around like you might move an offensive lineman? Lance Dixon, X-Ray Low? Probably not. You're not moving anybody from Bandit over because Bandit's like Mike. So I'm trying to do that. And then I just wonder if you don't just kind of hold your nose and go with the defensive line you have and maybe hope to generate pass rush either with your secondary being better with another corner or with the number of people you have. I do think they have players and they have a chance to have some fresh lineups in there too, which would make me then think about, okay, use that extra one for the defensive backfield again too. So I would go receiver, corner, linebacker. Flexible on that fourth one, I would think about a safety or maybe the next best, like the best player. You have a 4th-round draft pick and you're late in the round and okay, let's just get the best player out there. Kind of feels like what you're doing there. You're drafting, you have priorities, and I would just try to see what helps the picture best based on who you got before that. So that fourth and that last one, you really can have a look at it from overhead and try to figure out what's the best look and what's the best fit and go from there. But it does seem we're in some agreement here. Their secondary does need some help. Their defense does need help. They've lost a lot, but man, they have this card they can play right now and see what they can do with a top shelf quarterback. I'm curious about offensive line. I just wonder who they're going to get at offensive line that's better than what they have now and in the future. But again, if you're in that position, maybe that's that number 4 for me. Oh man, we can get a right tackle. That takes care of that. We're deeper as a result, either because he's the backup right tackle or he becomes our right tackle and we have depth across the board because of who got bumped down. The first 3 are pretty clear to me. That fourth one is kind of up in the air, which is not a bad thing either.
Are you ready for the curveball portion of this that really shouldn't be viewed as a curveball anymore?
Okay.
Why are we limiting ourselves to 4?
Yeah, that's the but to all this too.
Right.
And that's a perfect point too.
We're doing it for the purpose of the reason for those listening that don't know. We're saying 4 because that's how many counters they have, initial counter scholarships they have for this class. What West Virginia has done, even before Neil Brown, and all the schools do it, but Neil Brown has been very happy to do it and has talked about it and been very open about it. I think one of the first signing days he had, and they were tight on scholarships, and he said they would get, quote, creative with the scholarship situation, and they certainly did by adding guys via blue shirt and gray shirt. You count forward, you count backwards. And so limiting ourselves to 4, I mean, that's because there's 4 spots. I still think you could end up with 5 or 6, but you're not going to just get to 5 or 6 to say that you got to 5 or 6. Has to be the right players. But I think, the prioritizing the 4 is important, but I don't think they'll be limited to 4 by the time we get to August. It's not going to happen in the next month. I mean, we've seen them add guys as late as, Tony Fields literally did not commit until the week of fall camp, started. He literally did not make a decision until then. So, I mean, if a player of that caliber is available that late in the game, you find a way to make it work.
And if you're one of these people who tracks who visits and who doesn't, this is important because, and correct me if I'm wrong here, if you visit in the official capacity, you cannot count forward, correct?
Correct.
So if you see somebody on campus on a visit for a spring game or sometime after, there's some windows that are open for that. That person will not count forward, which means that's somebody that they're really interested in. If you see some names in, let's say, before one of those enrollment periods, ideally in the June and then certainly August, those are possibilities to count forward. And you're right, West Virginia has done that. West Virginia has done that with players who were not going to be on the team next year, right? Have done that with players who ended up transferring out. So it's a currency that they're not afraid to throw around.
No, I was gonna say, in that, because it's rare for somebody to come available that late in the game, but it has happened. I mean, I say rare, but it happens every year. It's just not that many that are available. It does happen every year. It's just not that many that are available heading into the summer, at least that you would want to add to your roster.
You gonna pop on ESPN Plus tonight and watch this baseball game?
Yeah. How could you not watch this baseball team right now?
Oh, you might not have ESPN Plus. That would be one way, I guess.
No, that's true.
But good coverage of it, good series, good pitchers tonight. Like two major league arms, maybe not major league, but 2 pro arms pitching today. And again, a top 5 team, a top 25 team should be good. Reason to be excited this weekend, Chris.
Oh God. Please.
We'll be back next week.
Probably
overdue for a Q&A, right?
I think so. Maybe we'll put that up a little Easter Sunday, put the thread up, let the people ask their questions as they sit there, either from a sugar high from all their candy or a food coma from their Easter dinner. So let them ask some questions.
If you see the thread, you have a question, just basket. Until next time, I'm Mike Casaza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
A thunder will never be stolen. We'll talk to you later.